Welcome to the Created Worthy podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're here. On this show, I talk about creative processing and how to utilize it as a skill to bring peace, joy, and freedom into our chaotic lives. I also sit down with the most incredible guests as they share their stories, many of which for the very first time. We are all created worthy. Well, thank you so much, Breanna, for joining me on the Created Worthy podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. We have been talking for several months about you interviewing on here. I think even before I had launched the podcast, you had voted on the name and had been really engaged just in being an awesome listener and then somebody that I've been excited to get on the show for quite a while. So I would love to start with you introducing yourself.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's such a pleasure to be on this podcast. So a little bit more about me. My name is Breanna Bortner, and I am a wife. I am a dog mom. I am a solo entrepreneur, and I am the owner of Breanna's Business Boutique, where I offer online support services for female entrepreneurs. So I've recently, kind of made my way into this entrepreneurial space. And so it's been so lovely to get to connect with people like you who have that entrepreneurial spirit and who are out there just, shaking things up and making their way in this world.
When did you start your business?
So officially, it was November of 2020. Yeah, so I just hit the 1 year mark, which is a great milestone for owning a business and just, being in this space. I feel like work anniversaries in the corporate world were not as exciting, but for a business owner, it was really fun to celebrate. And I'm just so proud of like all of the people that I've been able to connect with in this past year and all of the things that I've been able to do. And so it's wonderful to just commemorate all of that and wrap it up into a 1 year anniversary party.
Yes. It's definitely celebration worthy. So I am excited to be recording. It's December 1st today. So what day in November was your launch day?
My official, I think it was like November 6th.
Oh, mine was the 7th.
No way.
Yes, but 4 years. I just celebrated my 4-year. I call it a birthday, but I guess anniversary probably fits better. But I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary of my business, and yeah, yours is just the day before. How cool.
Oh
How
my
random.
goodness, that's crazy. Well, we'll have to celebrate together 1 year.
Yes, let's do it. So I would love for you to just share a little bit about your story, what you've come through and how you became a business owner and decided to start your own business.
I think one of the first stories that I have on my heart is just a story of like perseverance. And this isn't, by no means like a heart-tugging story, but it's just kind of a story of how I maybe, got my grit and how I am able to stand out, in the masses. So I've actually been a dancer my whole life. And you asked me, before I jumped on the podcast, what one of my favorite quotes is. And I actually have this quote tattooed on my foot. And it says, you can dance anywhere, even if only in your heart.
I love that. I love that so much. I am not a dancer at all. So I'm like, when I saw that quote, when you typed it up, I was like, oh my gosh, that's like, it's actually really profound because I feel like dancing is so much more than just the movement of our bodies, right? In an artistic way. It's like, it's a tool. It's like a gift almost to ourselves, a freeing gift.
Yeah. And it's just a way to express yourself and a way to just not have to worry about the future or dwell on the past. It's a way to just completely drown out the outside world. And so that's why I always loved dance, is because it was an outlet for me to not have to worry. And it's not funny, but it is. But in recent years, I was diagnosed with anxiety, and my therapist and other people had asked me, hey, like, did you have anxiety growing up? And I was like, no, I had dance. Like, of course I wasn't anxious. I had nothing to worry about. And, in the more recent years where there's less opportunities for expressive dance for adults, I'm now, almost 30 years old. I've found myself with anxiety. And so to me, dance is the answer if you have anxiety.
I love that. I think that'll resonate with a lot of people, especially I know a lot of people also do dance like all throughout their childhood and maybe into high school, but then college comes around and adulthood comes around and it's so easy to abandon those passions and things that we loved to do when we were younger. It sounds to me like dance is a creative processing method for you.
Yeah, it definitely is. And as an adult, like I said, there's less outlets and less opportunities for that. I envision one day if I have children, like a mommy and me, sort of dance class. But I, kind of going back to my story, I had loved dance so much, and I had been a dancer for almost 12 years by the time that I had hit a freshman in college. And I had tried out for the dance team for the high school, and I ended up actually not making the team. And it was embarrassing. It was like, wow, I've been dancing since I was seriously like two. Like, how have I not
Right.
how have I not, refined these skills enough to make the team? And a part of my story is actually just, having that humility of just like, you know what, I'm going to go back to the basics, and I'm going to brush up on techniques, and I am going to, circle back to the core of dance, which is ballet. And I actually took that opportunity in that time in which I didn't make the dance team to go back and, find my heart again. And I danced at a studio, and I worked with my dance coach. And I took 2 years to build up my confidence and build up my technique before I came back to those dance team tryouts and showed up and made varsity. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. I know I have kind of a similar story, but not in dance and volleyball. Actually, I played volleyball when I was younger, and I had made the varsity team my eighth grade year, and then I made like the third level team. I went to a really small school, so third level was like the lowest level my freshman year, and I felt like so embarrassed. I never tried out. I actually never played volleyball again. So hearing you persevere what you were talking about earlier with your spirit of perseverance, like that is a beautiful example of that. And it's especially hard to do when you're in high school and the dynamics are so weird because you see the same people. There's, the same coaches or judges, or I don't know do they call them coaches in dance?
Yeah,
Okay.
like dancing
I
coach. Yeah.
sound dumb,
Mhm.
but yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a story that's, of course, at the time it was embarrassing, but now I look back at the years that I was on the team, and it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I did, muster up the confidence and go back, because of course there were people who were in my position who just, they're like, hey, I clearly, they took it personal. I'm not good at dance. Clearly, I didn't make the team. And so I'm going to go try something else, or I'm just going to not do any creative hobbies anymore. And so there definitely is that side of that. And I think truly my love for dance is what kept me going throughout that time. Like, I also was in sports, not volleyball, although I definitely like secretly lied that I was in volleyball, because I had it, those character drawings that
Yes.
you have like the super big head and then you're
Yeah.
doing a sport. I had one playing volleyball, and I was like, definitely did not play volleyball, but I really must have wanted to. um,
I love that.
yeah, but I mean, I played sports like softball as well, all growing up, and I was always dancing. And that kind of goes back to the quote on my foot, but I was always getting almost in trouble for dancing. I'd be out in the outfield or spinning in the dirt on the softball field, and they'd be like, Brianna, stop doing pirouettes. Like, this is softball, this isn't dance. So I was just constantly dancing. And so I truly think, it's just a testament to like passion. Like, if you truly do love something, there is a space for it in your heart and in your life. And it was just so fun to have those memories in high school. And I actually ended up going on after high school and dancing 4 more years at the college level. And so, yeah, that additional 6 years of dance that I never thought I would get are some of the most like impressionable in my life now.
Wow. So did you continue dancing after high school?
Yeah, so I was actually on a dance company then in college. So I went to college in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and there was a dance company, and there was about 20 members there. And so I was part of the team every year. And then my senior year, I actually was president. So I ended up having more of a motivational direction, more of the organization for the different shows and things that we showed up for. And so that was a great opportunity as well, and kind of, led to this leadership and entrepreneurial spirit that I find myself in position of today.
Wow. So dance and your passion for dance, and then where that hobby took you, led you to your path now. That's really cool.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
really,
just
really
like
cool.
stepping into that role of just like, hey, like I feel confident enough to do this, and I know that I can make an impact on these girls and guys. There's a few guys in the
Yeah.
dance company as well. Like I know that I can make an impact, and I mean, yeah, just a lot of the same key attributes, right? Organization, speaking with dignity, you know, being really all inclusive with everyone. It's all of these things come into play as a business owner today as well, and are great. That was a great test run of those traits, and now I'm actually putting them out there in the world today.
Right. I love that. So on Calendly, you shared about leaving your corporate job. So I assume before you became an entrepreneur, you were in the corporate world for a while. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and that's kind of the next story of grit and perseverance. I mentioned going to college. I went to school in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I studied human resources. So that is a business degree. And when I came out of it, I, of course, looked for human resources roles. And I, eventually landed this human resources coordinator position. I ended up growing to a generalist. Then I moved here to Illinois and found myself, of course, another human resources job. It's kind of all that I knew. But at the same time, it was clear, like it was not for me. I was not myself. I was very unhappy with like the amount of time that it took to drive and pack lunches and, just like be away from my home and be away from my husband. And it was just like, not my vibe. Like there's even little things that I didn't enjoy, such as like the temperature. I'm like, I'm always cold. It's freezing in this building. I had a Snuggie at my desk, a cheetah Snuggie. I
I
kid you
love it.
not. I had one of those like space heaters under my desk. It's just like I was just constantly like out of my element and uncomfortable. And it may seem silly to complain about like the temperature, but there's just little things such as like the lighting and the temperature and the smells around you that, make you happy and that make you feel comfortable and productive. And I felt like in that environment where people are, doing crazy things and people are warming up fish in the microwave, it was not for me.
Fair enough. That would not be for me either. Oh, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yuck. And that's a lingering smell. Fish.
PSA, like do not warm up fish in a microwave. PSA for everyone
Yes.
involved.
If you work in
Yes.
a corporate job, don't do that. That's so rude.
I know. Eat your fish cold or don't eat fish at
Yeah.
work. Don't eat
Do it at
leftover
home.
fish at work. Yeah. I know it's a silly thing, but it's just those things like I'm trying to
Yeah.
work and it smells like dying animals in here. So yeah, there was just those little things that were just like constantly build up over time. And overall, I mean, just like I stopped being passionate about the work that I was doing. It was mundane and it had no end truly. And I'm a very like task oriented person. Like I love to get a project or get a task and work up to that goal or work up to that deadline and like put a close on it. And in corporate, it's just like these cyclical things that come up time and time again. And I found myself at this place where, my mental health was at an all-time low. My weight was at an all-time high. My happiness was not there. My relationships outside of work were dwindling just because I was so uninspired leaving work that I never, made time to do anything else. I had 2 hours, in an evening to put together a meal and, maybe do a workout or something like that. And so I just found myself in this place where I was like, I can't continue down this road anymore.
My goodness. So, what was the pivoting factor for you? What made you decide, I cannot do this anymore? I've got to figure out a different route?
So it was obviously last year, working from home in the pandemic. I felt like I was working on a remote, deserted island by myself. I just felt no sense of community. I felt I wasn't part of something greater than me. I just got to this point where I was just kind of upset with how things were going in my career, and didn't see any way out or any way up. It was just like a flat line. And it got to this point where I was just honestly crying like multiple times a week. And I think really truly what I needed and what that pivoting point was my husband. He was the one who said, leave, stick it to him, like get out of here. Like at the point, I mean, he's probably sad for me, but also just like this girl keeps crying and sobbing at night. Like this woman needs something else. And so
Right.
it really took that for me to be like, okay, you know what? I have his buy-in. I have his health insurance. I'm leaving. And so the next day I called up my boss and I was like, yeah, he had known for a while that I wasn't
Yeah.
happy, obviously, like any good boss should know. And I said, yeah, you know how we were talking about me leaving? And he's like, yep. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And it was very amicable. I mean, I ended up working, I think, like 5 or 6 weeks after that, just to help out in the interim. And, throughout that time was just really brainstorming what career path is going to be a good fit for me and my lifestyle and my needs and desires. And so that's really when I put the pen to paper. And I know, like, growing up in school, a lot of us did like Venn diagrams, right?
Yes.
Like this is
Circle,
this.
circle.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like what's in the middle. So I ended up doing like a pro and con, list in a Venn diagram. And oh my gosh, I still actually probably have the list in this desk today. The pros of like staying. I ended up creating a TikTok of all the pros and cons because it was quite apparent. Like the pros, there was like 4 maybe, and the cons, there was like 25 of the things that I didn't like. And so that's like the exercise that I needed to do to just put it in my mind, like, okay, this is not good for me. Like this is not a long-term solution. And the thought of staying in that place and in that career and in that sort of lifestyle till retirement, I mean, that was enough to just send shivers down my spine. So that exercise was like a healthy coping mechanism for me. And then after that, like I said, I put the pen to paper and started doing research on like what is going to work for me. And I ended up coming across this YouTube video about being a virtual assistant and how you can support people online with your services and skills, whichever skills are you want to offer up to the world, and you can actually make a living from home. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. I had loved working from home in the pandemic. Like I said, I could be warm. I could have the lights dim. I could have my favorite snacks. I just, have my essential oils going. I absolutely loved it. And so I knew that I wanted to continue working from home. And so that's kind of the route that I went after I watched that video. I was like, all right, well, let's do this. And that's kind of how Breanna's Business Boutique was born.
So you are a VA essentially.
Yeah, so BA, online business manager, kind of, the same thing. I, give myself the title of online business manager because I do truly feel like a partner with my clients. I'm not only just like taking tasks that you give me and running with it. I'm, bringing strategy to the table. I'm bringing, new opportunities. I'm, doing things that to elevate the level of the business instead of just maintain the status quo. So I like to look at myself as a manager, kind of a wing woman. There's so many
Yeah.
different ways that you could, a business bestie, different ways that you can look at this. But, truly I see myself as part of my client's business and, really, really involved with the daily inner workings of what goes on.
I love that. And you create beautiful graphics. You work with Stevie, right?
I do.
I
Yes. I work with a few different women in that collective
in the
group.
Do you create Stevie's graphics?
I do. Yep.
So good. I'm like, oh my gosh, so beautiful. I was doing work with Dr. Christine, and I still am, but I would see your graphics and I was like, okay, that's the level of professionalism I need to get to. So you are a huge inspiration for me in
Oh,
just
thank
creating
you.
that in that realm of my business. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I mean, creating graphics, I create lead magnets, sales portfolios, presentations, all of those, visual things that you need for marketing. And it was something that, like, at my corporate job, I got the opportunity to start developing a newsletter, and I was like lit up. I was like, cool. That's when I initially found Canva. I found Canva, started making these newsletters, these internal newsletters for my company, and that was kind of the feedback, as I was leaving. It's like, hey, Breanna, like, you get really excited about creative projects that you're tasked with. And so if you're going to do something, like, maybe you should consider that. And I was like, you know what? Like, I do. I love that stuff. It doesn't feel like work to me. I could,
Yeah.
tinker in it all day and just have so much fun. So to be able to bring that into my business and to be able to do that while not only making a living, but also making an impact is such a great feeling because it's something that I enjoy doing, and it doesn't, it's not like nails to the chalkboard. It truly
Right.
is freeing.
So it sounds like you're actually working in your zone of genius.
Yeah, I mean, I truly do hope so. Like, when my clients walk, like, sometimes on our one-on-one calls, we'll do a screen share, and we'll work on projects together, and they're like, "You're so quick in Canva." I'm like, "Yeah, I've been using it for a few years now." And for me, it's so fun to do that sort of stuff and to
Such an
create
amazing
something.
tool.
Yeah,
Do
the
you use
best.
Illustrator at all or any of those? I can't. Like, I actually can't comprehend those systems. And before I knew about Canva, I like purchased Illustrator and purchased Photoshop and like tried to do all of my I would draw all of my graphics like on Procreate, and it was exhausting. And then Canva came around and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so easy and so fun." And
Oh, yes.
such
Canva
a
can be
cool tool.
addicting.
So
But
fun.
yeah, actually, in my previous life in high school, I was the lead graphic designer for the yearbook. So I worked in Illustrator, InDesign,
So
and
you knew
Photoshop.
those systems.
I did. And
I'm
that kind of
impressed.
experience led me to want to do that in college. And I quickly changed out of that major. And if I could change one thing about my, like, career trajectory, I would have said I should have stuck with that graphic design major because it's something that I'm still so intrigued by to this day.
Yeah.
By no means do I know all the ins and outs. And so I wish I could, know more at the
Yes.
collegiate level.
Oh, yes. I feel I have my degree in communication, but I really focused in public speaking. So I felt really called to that. And I do feel like I use those skills, but I wish I would have minored or done something in graphic design as well. Cause like getting those skills from a school classroom setting like that is just so much different than now. I mean, we live in a very resourceful world. So there are all kinds
Mhm.
of courses you can take to learn, but when it's really structured and it's like, this is your project, do this project, it's like you learn so much easier. At least I do. So yeah,
Right.
I feel that. I'm like, man, I should have done, I didn't do anything to do with art in my college career at all. And then I started an art business.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's truly a testament into, like, how powerful your passions can be, right? Like,
Hmm.
and how I don't even know how to say it, but just how blinding society can be. It's like, right, you need to go to college and you need to get this degree because this job will make you the best money and it'll give you the best quality of life. And so that's why I choose my major. And I'm sure, that had some sort of play into why you chose yours. And, then we come out and 5 years later, I'm like, yo, that was a
Oops.
bad idea.
Whoopsie.
Right. Trust society no more and trust your gut.
Yes, exactly. So, what do you think the tools are that you really need to be able to accomplish those goals that you feel passionate about? Whether it is owning a small business, or some people, I think they genuinely want to work in the corporate world,
Mhm.
but they still, want to make an impact and have a purpose filled life. So, what do you think some of the tools are that people need to be able to accomplish goals in general?
Yeah. I honestly think, one of the best tools that you could have would be like an unbiased third party to talk to, right? Like someone to say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. this is what I'd like to be doing. How do I get there? And that could be someone like a career coach, right? That could be a therapist. That could be a kind of like your childhood best friend that knows what's best for you. And so I think that is a great tool or resource to really consider, am I on the right career path? And am I making the impact that I want to be in this world? Yeah, I think it's such a difficult situation to be stuck, in this corporate mindset where, yeah, like you said, some people may truly enjoy it, but from my conversations and, my friends that are my age, it is kind of it's a trapping feeling, right? Like, oh, I gotta be here till I'm 60, 65, even maybe. And from our generation, they told us no social security, so it's like 70.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like, yeah, like there's just no end. And so to be able to step out on your own and to do things that you're passionate about, even if it's just on the side, I think can really bring a lot of just it reinvigorates your life. Because if you go in and day out and you're working towards other people's dreams and you're not working towards yours, you're gonna leave just feeling very unpassionate and very low energy, just because you're not doing the things that light you up each day, which is so important because life is so short.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying to like step into passion projects, regardless of if you're working in the corporate world or not, having those tools or creating those projects really to light yourself up and fill your tank is really important, just
Right.
as a tool to achieve any goal.
Right. And like an example, let's say you're in a corporate office setting, you're an accountant, and there's a holiday party coming up. Be like, hey, I love to plan parties. Can I order the catering? Can I get the decorations up? Even things like little things like that, to get involved in your office and to step into a role where people haven't seen you in that light yet, can really, bring out your strengths and show people really what you're made of. And that could lead to other opportunities, right? Like that's just the first step of networking. And the second step could be like, hey, you threw an amazing holiday party. My mom is, she's having her 50th anniversary party with her husband. Would you like to help throw that? And it just leads to more conversations. So really stepping out there and, standing up for what you want to do and what you want to, what you want to give to the world.
And that actually, it sounds like a whole nother tool, networking and connections. That is something that I've found to be so important in just even setting goals in the first place, like figuring out what do I want to create and how can I do that. And so, yeah, being able to talk to other business owners or just networking in general, and making those connections can really, really help to make goals become real and reality.
Right. Yeah. And there's no greater tool than just your ability to be able to get along with the masses of people, right? To be able to strike conversation with the lady on the street or the man looking at apples at the grocery store. Like there is just no greater beauty than that. One of my best friends growing up, she worked at a grocery store and she was the cashier, checking people out, and she had a regular. And he ended up getting her involved with like the remodeling and construction business. And that's where she works in today. And it's such a testament that even if you are a cashier or even if you are a server, the networking that you can do just within your job because of the people that come in and out of your site each day is a great way to, get opportunities and to show people your skills. Like, right, she was a cashier, but she obviously showed that she was friendly and dependable and organized. And now she's, totally killing it in this industry. So it's so cool to see that happen and see things unfold that way.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Networking isn't just specific to small business owners. It's for everybody, anybody in the workforce at all. Networking is, I feel like networking is almost a term that is confusing and most people don't really understand the fundamentals of it literally just being getting along with people, starting conversations, talking, being who you are, where you're at, exactly as you are, and being able to bring the people who are naturally in your path or in your life into that and starting those conversations.
Yeah.
So
And it's
good.
totally just like, it's not a what's in it for me type thing. It's just a,
No.
hey, I really want to get to know you more. You really tap into people, get to know like their wishes, their desires, their life, and, beautiful things can happen from that. And my first client in business of owning Breanna's Business Boutique came from networking in a Facebook group. With a woman who lives here locally to me. She's about 20 minutes away. And I ended up just chatting with her and asking her a few questions and, hey, can we jump on a phone call? I want to learn more. And she ended up being like, hey, I really need someone like you to help me run the ins and outs of my business. And like, what a confidence boost to be like, hey, I landed my first client. And it was someone that I didn't know beforehand. And just beautiful things can just naturally unfold that way.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to hear how you personally stay sane in the midst of entrepreneurship. Like, do you have any tools or things, habits that you practice consistently that help you just be able to maintain?
Yeah. Well, something recently that I've been implementing is a very like strong and defined morning routine. And I found that this was lacking in my life in general, even before entrepreneurism. It's just like quick, get out the door, and you start your morning really in a rush and in a frenzy for work. And that makes you feel like you're this robot, right? Like you wake up and you do the same thing each and every day. And now my morning routine is something I'm so proud of, and I've actually had a health and wellness coach help me implement this. But I wake up, I drink a full glass of water, I now journal for 5 to 10 minutes, and then I meditate or do breath work for 10 minutes. And to me, that non-negotiable time, it really sets my day up in a beautiful light because I'm no longer waking up just to do work or just to make money or just
Right.
to make someone else happy. I'm now waking up because I have my own priorities and because I have things that I know make a difference in my life. And so I think just setting those boundaries and having a routine that works for you, whether it's in the nighttime, midday, or it's a nighttime kind of unwind type routine, those can make a huge difference in your life. And no matter how busy the day is, no matter what awaits you, once you log onto that computer, you've had that time for yourself. And the rest is it's kind of history, and it will unfold how it will. But I think that it can make a huge difference, especially when you're stressed out, when you're nearing that burnout type phase. To do things for yourself each and every day is something that no one else is going to do for you, and so you need to make that time and set that boundary for yourself.
I love that. And I totally agree. And I also feel very convicted.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had a morning routine at the beginning of the year, and then I was like, nope, no more. I want to be crazy.
Yeah.
But seriously, I totally agree. And I think you touched on something that I think is important where some people it is morning. I think for me, morning would be best because it's starting my day off. But I have a friend, and it's actually the one who I host Half Hood, Half Holy with, who a morning routine is not what she needs, but she needs her nightly routine. And so
Mhm.
everybody is so different, but really taking that time to identify what are my needs and what do I need to feel like I'm filling my cup or I'm
Mhm.
rejuvenating myself or I'm getting that rest or I'm calming down my mind and I'm creating that space in my life for myself. And yeah, that's different for everybody, but morning, I would recommend morning, but everybody is different.
Right. Yeah. There's so many different ways to do it, and there's no right or wrong way. But I think just creating that space for yourself and just really, leaving that as your like holy and sacred time, it's just been life changing for me. And so it's something that I would recommend to anyone else who's looking to create some balance in their life and structure and find themselves in a good place amongst the craziness of entrepreneurialism.
Yes. Is there anything else that you do to help keep your mind in check and get your tasks done and goals
Yeah.
accomplished?
More breaks as well. I think,
Mm,
I'm coming from this corporate place, right? I'm a year out. I'm a year, I'm a year free, but I came from this place where it's just like you should be sitting at your desk 24/7, and if you're not there, there's going to be questions. And I was notoriously the person who was constantly in the hallway just walking around, just pacing, because I cannot sit. I cannot sit for 8 hours. And you truly, truly cannot focus for 8 hours at a time. Even 4 hours is too much. And so, after meetings, after something, like this podcast, I've set aside time for me to breathe and for me to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And that's truly important because you can't show up as your best self on the top of the hour after hour after hour. And so if you can give yourself that space, especially after a meeting or something that might be a little bit more energy required, then you can give yourself that time to really recuperate and then get ready for that next thing to dive into. So I also recommend just leaving those breaks, even if it's just 5 minutes before you jump into your next meeting or task. It can be a game changer just so you can get that time, get your water, bathroom break, snack, pet your dog, do
Whatever
whatever
it
you want to
is.
do.
No, that is such a good piece of advice because that is something that is so hard to do. Like especially if you're just caught in the hustle mindset where you're like, I got to get it done, I got to get it done, I got to get it done, I got to get it done. It's so easy to be like, okay, I don't even have time to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that's not good for your body. And then you're setting
No.
yourself up for anxiety and just stress and overwhelm and burnout and all of those things. So, taking a break, oh my gosh. I used to when Morgan used to work here in my house with me, I would always tell her, I was like, can you just tell me, Danielle, you need to take a break? Because I would just go and go and go and go and go. And I like felt like I needed permission, but I also didn't feel like I could give myself permission because my break would just consist of my mind spiraling and being like, okay, I need to get this done. And then I learned how to do it. Like I learned to go outside, to take a breath of fresh air, to sit down and to just breathe. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't need to pick up my phone and scroll on social media during that time. I just, even if it's just a minute, just putting everything aside, just breathing and being like, okay, I'm giving my mind a break. I'm giving my body a break. And this is so that I can actually perform to the best of my ability. Because if I continue running and just spiraling, I'm never going to accomplish anything that actually has any kind of purpose or grit behind it because
Mm-hmm.
it's half done.
I'm so glad that you implemented that practice as well and that you've got to the point where you realize when you need it. It's like you almost need to set like an alarm on your phone every few hours, like please stop what you're doing.
I think that's a great idea. Set an alarm on your phone. If you are
Hmm.
like me and it's hard to give yourself permission to take a break, set an alarm on your phone. I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah, sometimes you need it. I have one that tells me to go to bed at night
Yeah,
because
me
I am a
too.
night owl. I love being up at night. It's like a party for me every night. I get all this energy and I'm bouncing around my house doing crazy stuff. And I have this alarm that goes off that says, "Get some rest, sweetie." And it's like, oh, yeah, right. I should be going to bed. I have lots of stuff to do tomorrow. So you sometimes just need those reminders and maybe just like telling yourself isn't enough. So visually seeing it can be a huge game changer.
Okay, so we are almost to the end of the show, but I would love to hear from you just through our conversation. We talked about how dance is a creative processing method. Do you feel like there's anything else that you use as a means of creative processing? You know, did you listen to that episode about creative processing?
I
No?
don't think so, no.
Okay. So creative processing is basically it's very broad. It's
Hmm.
just the idea that you intentionally set time aside to do one thing that
Mm-hmm.
engages your creative mind and allows you to process through whether it's an anxious situation or a marital fight or
Hmm.
a lack of direction or clarity in your business, or for me it's like infertility or some childhood trauma, like just some kind of intention behind what you're creating. You just set that time aside. You've talked again about dancing,
Hmm.
but is there something else that you, even if it's Canva, or for some people it's cleaning, for some people
Hmm.
it's creating spreadsheets, there's all different kinds of ways to engage your creative mind. And when you're doing it with intention, it's super healing. And that's what creative processing is.
Hmm. Yeah. I would say another way is just like being outside and like working in the plants, like honestly, just like weeding. for me is so healing. Planting things, replanting things, cleaning up the garden. It's something like I've been a homeowner just for a few years now. So I by no means am I a green thumb, but it's something that I've found to be just like, oh my goodness, nature is beautiful because for me, I'm also a perfectionist. And so I see something and I'm like, oh, it's dead or oh, it's ruined. It'll never come back. But with nature, it's so crazy how things can just thrive through the craziest of times, or how you think something isn't doing well and then it sprouts this huge other shoot. And so I think spending time in nature, whether that just be walking outside with your bare feet, or it is, planting or weeding or harvesting herbs. There's something to be said about just like the power of being outside and actually connecting with the earth. I think that is not only creative, but it's healing it as well.
I love that. Well, perfect. The last thing I would love to hear from you is, do you have any recommendations for either your favorite podcast or book and your favorite song if you're a music person?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Those are all very hard questions. I've
I know I
always
should
been
have sent
tripped
it.
up. I've always been tripped up about like what's your favorite song? Because I have so many.
You can share an
Uh,
artist if that's
yeah.
easier.
One of my favorite artists is Chelsea Cutler. And I actually recently just saw her a few months ago at the Red Rocks Amphitheater out
Here
in
in
Europe.
Denver.
Yes,
If you
out
come
in
back
Europe.
here, we've got to meet in person.
Oh, I would love that. I want to go to that cat meow or whatever the.
Meow Wolf.
Yes,
We went to
so
Meow Wolf.
cool.
It was so cool. I am still confused. I'm like, was I in a building? Like, I'm still so confused, but you have to go. If you come to Denver, that is worth it. I'll probably go 10 more times
Oh my goodness,
or more.
perfect. The date is set.
Yes. What is your favorite artist name again?
Yeah,
Chelsea?
Chelsea Cutler. And she's just someone who's been very inspiring for me. I actually saw her a few years ago as well in Chicago. And at that time, she was 19 and she had just dropped out of college to pursue music full time. And so I felt just like this weird, like I can really resonate with her. Like her family and society told her to go to college. She was playing like soccer, like almost like on a full ride scholarship type thing. Like she had a lot of stuff going for her. And she's like, you know what? No, I'm dropping out of college. I'm going on tour. And so she ended up doing that. And now she's obviously like, she's been to the Red Rocks Amphitheater, she's been to Lollapalooza. Like she's done some crazy things with her career. And at 19 years old, she just announced that at one of her concerts. And I'm like, I want to be you. Like, you're so cool. So she's someone who I just love her music. I love her vibe and I love her story.
I love that. I'm going to have to check into her. I have not heard of her actually, which is kind of crazy. I'm all about music. Music is like another one of my creative processing methods is just listening to music and getting wrapped up in lyrics.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Love it. If you're going through a bad breakup, she's your girl, but she's also just like, yeah, she's just very soothing voice and yeah, great to work with, great to drive with. Oh gosh, me and her, we're driving besties.
I'm going to check her out when I go pick up my daughter from school.
Yes.
From Chelsea.
Awesome.
What about your favorite podcast or book or both?
Yeah, so right now I'm reading The Four Agreements and I'm actually rereading it. And for me, it's just great to reinstill these things that really are important in your life. Like nothing else is important besides these four agreements. And so I'm finding a lot of clarity from that, especially reading it a second time. And right now I'm on the second chapter, which is talking about not taking things personally. And it's something that I've been working on, for quite a long time here throughout my corporate career and now as an entrepreneur. And this book is one of the things, solo-handedly has helped me overcome that problem of just blaming yourself for stuff and taking responsibility for things that really you don't need to own. And so I very much so recommend The Four Agreements to anyone who's just wanting like clarity and like a good baseline for how to live your life.
I love that. I'm going to have to check that one out too. Yeah, that's definitely something I'm struggling with currently is like, how do I do this? How do I not do that and I do this instead?
Yeah, and to read it in the literature and the way that they line it up, it's just like, oh yes, like you see how freeing your life could be if you truly lived by each and every one of those virtues. And so it's just something great to read and just remind yourself time to time. Hence why I'm reading it a second time, just to give myself that clarity.
Yes. So what about podcasts? Are you a podcast listener?
Yes and no. So we do drive a lot. So my husband and I, we notoriously have binged the Crime Junkie
Oh,
podcast.
you're a crime junkie too. I knew it.
Yes.
I
Um,
knew I loved you.
Yes. It's just, yeah, it's so fun. Like all the stories just are so different and unique. And we've just found ourselves binging. Like we have a lot of 6 hour road trips because our family lives 6 hours away. And so Crime Junkies like our go-to. And some of the stories honestly shake me to my core where I'm like, can we please turn this off? Because I can't walk around at our
Oh
house at night
yeah.
anymore. But some of them are just, yeah, they're so interesting. And it's just like, I love to hear how messed up people are. And,
Me too. You know what I think it is about crime podcasts, and specifically like Dateline and Crime Junkie and ones that are really well reported, is that we are captivated by the storytelling. So, yes, the stories are insane. That's part of it. But how they tell those stories, like, it's addicting.
Right. And just, yeah, the story of, the host too, right? Like they're just two girls, starting off in this,
Yeah.
small apartment. And it's just like now they have affiliates. And I've heard them on like they have, yeah, they're like
They're
affiliates for
big.
Sleep Number. Like they are doing amazing things. So just the beauty of just like what something super small can turn into is so cool.
I love that. Well, I'm so glad to hear that you are a fellow crime junkie, or a fellow, is that what they're called? Yeah,
Crime
fellow
junkies.
crime
Yeah.
junkie.
Mhm.
Gosh. Well, thank you so much, Breanna, for joining me today on the Created Worthy podcast. I am so excited for our listeners to be able to hear your story and all of your incredible advice as to how to just navigate life in this world. And whether you become a small business owner or in the corporate world, I think we talked about a lot of really encouraging things and some great pieces of tangible advice. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. Danielle, I could seriously talk to you all day. So I'm really sad that we have to go, but this has been so fun. And thank you so much for your creative direction with everything. And we'll chat again soon.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for listening to the Created Worthy podcast. If you want to connect more, you can follow along with me over at Danielle Damrell or Damrell Creative Co. on Instagram and Facebook. All the links to today's topics are in the show notes, and you can also find a link to my Patreon, which is where you can help support my mission on this show and keep it going. Ratings and reviews really do matter, so make sure to hook me up with 5-star review. Any less, I would rather hear your opinions over email. So anyway, if this episode resonated with you at all, share the love, send it to a friend, or post it on your social media. But don't forget to tag me so I see it and can share it too. I hope all of you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.